Hey everybody, this feels weird. We don't ever doc talk on my personal Facebook page, but this is something that we're super passionate about, and we wanted to reach all of you guys, not just the people that follow our business account, which is Live and Well Family Chiropractic. And it's something that more so than Dr. Heather at Live and Well, it's more, this is my heart. This is our heart as parents here in Cheyenne whose kids are forced to wear masks all day, every day, including PE, including recess, including music. They don't get to take them off. So instead of coming to you as Dr. Heather representing Live and Well, I wanted to come to you as me. And I wanted to tell you where my heart is and why I'm super passionate about getting these face masks off our kids. Anything else?
Nope, I was just going to say, we are going to show you the science, we are going to show you the data, but the reason that, we put this on our personal pages, this is also our personal opinion, this is our personal stance, so we're going to pull our business out of it, and we're just going to share our hearts with you.
Yeah, and just know also that if you guys aren't patients of ours, we're not giving you health advice, right? We're not telling you health advice over a screen. We would never tell you what to do with your health unless we meet you in person in our clinic and you become a patient of ours. But we hope that this data compels you to be more fearless when it comes to your decisions on your health, and more fearless when it comes to your decisions with your kids. And I hope it allows you guys to live your life just a little bit more fear-free. So we looked at some numbers. We crunched some numbers. Actually, Dr. Marley did, because he's the science guy, so thank goodness for him.
And here's the thing, all of these numbers, they are on the CDC's website. So
in fact, we'll link it.
Yeah, a lot of people are claiming that to be the gospel, so we want to use those numbers as we go over the data so that we can make intelligent decisions on the data that's presented to everybody across the country.
And speaking of the CDC, I'm going to tell you guys, we're using their numbers that we have available, but you all remember that about 2 weeks ago, the CDC came out with, on a web page saying that 6% of the deaths that they had calculated as COVID were actually solely a COVID death. The other 94% of the deaths had 2.5, I believe.
2.6.
2.6 other comorbidities. So when you account for that, we actually did some of that in our math here as well. We try to account for total deaths, and then if it's really just 6% of the deaths, what's that look like? So if we look here, and Doc, you can kind of zoom in. So the chart, it goes from February 2020 through September 12th, I believe is the last chart that I pulled, so pretty accurate. The total number of deaths in the United States is almost 2 million in that time frame. Okay?
So total all causes of death.
All causes of death.
COVID, car accidents, heart disease, cancer, all
suicide, everything, okay? It's 1.957766. So almost 2 million people have died in that time frame in the United States. In the original CDC data, due to COVID, what they've told us at that point as of September 12th, there was 182,095 deaths from COVID, okay? What I did was I took that number and I found what 6% of that number is. 6% of that number is almost 11,000. So 10,925 people have died solely because of COVID, not because they were sick or old or dying beforehand. And that's, once again, if we 100% trust their data, okay? The question is, number one, does this require a state of emergency for 7 months? And I think most people can say no, right? The restrictions are far too tight for a number like this, right? When we've had almost 2 million deaths. Okay, moving on into kids. So I'm really focusing on kids school aged, and the CDC's data brackets are awkward. There's not one that says age 5 through age 18. So I can't go into age 18, I wish I could. But to be honest with you guys, I'm way more concerned about my elementary kiddos wearing masks for 7 hours a day than I am the high school kids wearing masks for 7 hours a day, because I think they get more freedom in their classroom. They have longer periods. I think they get more mask breaks, and they're just more mature and probably more responsible with how much they're touching their masks. So I am more concerned in these younger kiddos. So what I found, you guys, is age 5 through 14, since COVID started in February 2020, we've had 30 deaths of kids in that age group. And don't get me wrong, that breaks my heart. I send my love and outpouring of just all my love to those families and loved ones who lost those kids, because that's not okay. It's really not. But it's also cause for concern that there's been 30 deaths in this entire time frame due to COVID, and all of our kids now are wearing masks nonstop at school, right? And when we look at the number of that, you guys, when I took the percentage of deaths here, 30, out of the percentage that they've originally calculated, 0.016% of the deaths have been due to kids in that school age region, okay? So I don't have the paper with me, I'm gonna link it, but I mean, what this tells us really, you guys, is our kids are dying of way different things right now. Our kids are more likely to die in a car accident. Our kids are more likely to die in any accident than they are to die of COVID-19. So we don't put what about childhood cancer? What about all these other things that we don't put any sort of emphasis on how we can be telling them to live their lives differently to protect them from things like that. Yet we're restricting their breathing at school, we're covering their faces, making them all look the same, taking away their individuality. My daughter Nora says she doesn't like to talk at school now because when she talks, her mask moves and that makes her feel like she's gonna get in trouble. So this is just, it's bad, you guys, and I don't believe that this number here is bad enough to equal what the kids are living through right now. So that's my take on this. I'm gonna post the numbers for you guys, but the take-home message is our kids are not at risk. Yes, we've lost some lives to this. Yes, it's very sad, but it's very, 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 very minimal. And I think they're at more risk of the long-term mental struggles from wearing a mask at school, the physical struggles from wearing those masks at school, than they are in regards to COVID. So that's my take, but then we have another really massive part that we can't leave out, and that's mental health.
So we got to realize that what we've done to these kids, what we are doing to these kids, there's going to be a trade-off. We know that they're not at risk for COVID. What they are at risk for is mental illness. So on the CDC's website, once again, we'll post the study, but they did a study and they surveyed a group of the U.S. population, and what they found is 41% of the population, they're estimating, has either struggled with mental illness or substance abuse during the month of June is when they looked at this. So 40% of the population is struggling with mental illness or substance abuse. The sad thing for me is when we break down the numbers even further, out of those, when they looked at June, in the last 30 days, there was 11% of the respondents that seriously contemplated suicide. Over the last 30 days, 11% of the population has seriously considered taking their own life. And a lot of those individuals are in the younger population. 18 to 24-year-olds, the number is actually over 25%. Over 25% of 18 to 24-year-olds in the last 30 days have seriously contemplated committing suicide. So we know that these individuals are not at risk for COVID-19 or the complications. We do know that there's a massive risk for mental illness and suicide. And we need to recognize that. And we need to do something about it. And I think the best place to start is we need to take these masks off our children. They are not at risk. The data does not support that they're the ones driving the pandemic. And there is no data out there to support that what we're doing to our kids, masking them up like we are, doesn't have any long-term health consequences.
Our kids are the study.
Yep.
There's no studies proving that long-term mask wearing on children is either beneficial or not beneficial. We've looked. Obviously, why would we have a study on that, right? And there is no study. Our kids are the study right now. And
I'm not okay with that. I didn't sign up for that study.
Right.
So, and when I sent my kids to school, it was because they wanted to, and then days before they go to school, we're strapped with these restrictions. So
Right.
we were under the impression that it was going to be a lot different. So the real thing is I think that Governor Gordon, he has to answer to these numbers. I think Dr. Harris, she needs to answer to these questions. We have the data. These kids are not at risk. What they are at risk for is they're at risk for mental illness, and we're just kicking the can down the road, and we're going to have bigger issues later on if we don't change what we're doing.
You know, and people keep saying, well, what if there's asymptomatic spread? What if they're spreading the virus or the pandemic? But Dr. Fauci himself has said asymptomatic carriers are never the spread of a pandemic, or never the drivers of a pandemic. So, you know, we also have to ask ourselves, I mean, do grandparents want the kids? Do they want these kids being held to these tight restrictions just in case it might help save their life? Just in case it might add some years to their life, months, days, whatever. We have to ask ourselves that. And maybe don't ask ourselves. Let's maybe ask Grammy and Grandpa what they think about that. Do they want their grandchildren going through what they're going through right now with no evidence to prove that it's actually going to prolong their life? And I mean, what population matters most, right? People are going to ask that. Who do you care more about? That's a really crummy question.
Yeah, we're
But
not
man, I care for kids.
right, we're not prioritizing
future.
one life over another, but if you're gonna force us to choose, I'm always gonna choose my kids.
Right, so if you guys are on this mission with us, just help us, give us ideas. How do we get up the chain? How do we talk science and common sense in a nice rational environment with the, powers to be? And if you have ideas for us, we'd love to hear them. We'd love to have a conversation with anybody who's willing to listen, an intelligent, professional, respectful conversation. But this is where we stand on this right now, so. Thanks for listening, you guys. Have a great day.